guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It is me, Marquise G, and you are now tuned in for another episode of G Talk. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you to all the likes, all the subscribers. I really truly appreciate it. Let's keep getting it up. Hit that like button, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend, tell a friend, comment, give me some feedback, let me know what you like, what you don't like, what you like to see more of, what you like to hear me talk about, and let's just keep running those numbers up. With that being said, I know it's been a while since I've done a G Talk. It's just been a whole conundrum of things going on in my life, but I'm so glad to be able to record and do this for you guys. I honestly miss it. Like, I hope you guys receive something from it, because I know it's very cathartic for me in a sense to be able to get these things out and express these things. So I hope you're receiving something from it, because I definitely enjoy talking about these things. So the topic today is going to be about mental health. And I know that that is a very dense topic in all parts of life, and especially right now in the times of coronavirus. It can be very, 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 very daunting to have to, one, realize that you might have a mental health concern, or, if you've already recognized that and trying to cope with that during these times, and, finding out where you can get help and who you can turn to and who you can talk to about it. I know that can be a very concerning and draining ordeal. So by all means, if you feel like you have no one to turn to or need someone to talk to, like, hit me up. I'm always here to talk. Even if you live millions and millions of miles away, we've never met before, I would love to talk. If you can't tell, I'm a talker. I love to talk, and I love to learn about people and, connect our experiences and know how we can kind of help each other through life, because essentially that's what we're all here to do, is to help another person or a group of people in some way, shape, or form to get through life together. So if you need that, definitely leave something in the comments, an email address, phone number, or just a shout out, whatever you need to do. And I can definitely either be that person for you or try to connect you with someone who can help you with that. Mental health, I've definitely seen it and experienced it in many different ways. If you have watched this from the very, very, very beginning, you've probably heard me talk about how I was a resident assistant while I was in college. So that means that I was basically, quote unquote, in charge of a group of ladies on my floor. And so, of course, in college, there are all types of mental health crises all the time. I've seen them from small things such as family issues and identity issues. I've also seen it as extreme as seeing an attempted suicide firsthand, so which was very, very traumatic. So I can understand on both ends of the spectrum, from being a witness and also being someone who kind of deals with mental health in a little bit, in a little sense of a manner, I guess. And it did take me until I went to college to even realize what mental health was. When I was in college, there were so many things that were broken down to me in such a way that I was able to understand them in a smaller sense of who I was. And before college, when I was in high school, I was aware that mental health was a thing, but it wasn't talked about as much. So it seemed like this phenomena that one in a cajillion people get, and not something that's so common that literally probably everyone you come into contact with has or will at some point experience some sort of mental health concern. I know for me personally, it took me a while to identify it, but I actually have mild anxiety from time to time, and sometimes it's self-inflicted when I'm getting worked up about something, or when I'm anxious, or when I'm nervous about something, or when I just have a mental block and I can't think through things. And I think that's the misconception that a lot of people have, is that mental health is this harsh stigma and people will judge you because of it, or that means that something's wrong with you and you need to be medicated or something like that. Mental health can be on a wide spectrum, and it could be something super, super tiny that you could probably deal with on your own, or something large that you might need expert advice about. So one is noticing, when are there times where you just don't feel okay? What type of not okay is it? And is it something that I can handle on my own, or is it something that I need to seek further guidance on? So I just want to put that tidbit out there first for anyone that might not have been exposed to the knowledge base of what mental health is. I strongly encourage you to look it up in your own time and just kind of get a better understanding for yourself as to what that is. But what brought this topic about was my friend Melanie. So shout out to her for actually putting this topic on my heart, accompanied with some things that I've been going through in the past few weeks. Me, Melanie, and another friend of mine, Star, we are all in a group chat together. We met during our time working for Hilton. So I met Star way before I met Melanie. I didn't meet Melanie until about June or July of last year. But ever since then, we've hit it off, and I just love Melanie so much. But we're in a group chat together, and we pretty much talk about once a week, almost, at least every other week, if not each week. And there was one week we were supposed to have a FaceTime call, and Melanie let us know, like, hey, I'm not really feeling too well, I just have a lot going on and I just need some time. From that, it really made me think about all the different ways that people could be impacted and you not even know. I think it's pretty obvious that a lot of people are impacted in some way, shape, or form due to COVID-19, whether it's financial, I'm sure it's mostly financial in some way, shape, or form, but financial can trickle down into other things. Financial issues can strain relationships. It can defeat your motivation. It can tear down your self-esteem. So even if your issue is only financial, it's trickling down in a lot of different ways. So I think even being able to realize that people are suffering literally every day in some way, shape, or form, and you may not even know it. Even if they seem like they're fine, or even if you're checking on them every single day and they say, yes, I'm fine, they still might not be okay, and that's okay. And it's not your right to have insight into what that person is feeling. When they want to tell you, they will tell you. And I know a lot of people say, well, I asked them if they're okay and they said they were fine, so that's it. You know what I mean? Or they then come to tell you later, X, Y, and Z was wrong with me. I was suffering from this at the time. And you're like, well, why didn't you tell me then? Not everyone is as vocal about their feelings. As much as I love to talk, I'm not a vocal person when it comes to my feelings, especially when it comes to something that's hurting me or making me sad or frustrated and angry. Sometimes I either hold it in and try to deal with it on my own, or I hold it in to the point where I literally explode and I can't help but tell somebody else. So just because you ask someone doesn't mean they have to be forced to tell you what's wrong. They have to feel comfortable and feel like you're a person that they can truly confide in, and not someone that will judge them or just try to talk over them and try to hurry up and patch the situation over. Sometimes they don't need a solution at all. Sometimes they don't want a solution right then and there. Some people need to grieve through whatever they're feeling, and then they'll be ready to move on to the next phase. So always keep that in mind if you're checking on someone or if someone is coming to you to tell you what's wrong. Talking to Melanie, one of the things she asked about was if Star or I had ever had therapy or knew people that enlisted in therapy. And I personally have never had therapy, but in college, of course, we had extensive training and we worked alongside with counselors and therapists on our campus. So I have talked with therapists a lot about different things that they can do for people. I referred a lot of my residents to therapists. I've had friends and family members who have been to therapy. So I definitely feel like if you find the right professional for you, therapy can be beneficial. I feel like just as much time as you would take to find a college or find a physician or anything like that is the same amount of time you should put into finding a therapist. If it's going to be an ongoing situation for you, you should definitely put time into searching for the proper therapist for you. They should be someone that you trust, someone that you feel like can really lead and guide you in the right direction, and someone that won't judge you or manipulate you in any way for their own personal gain. A few weeks after this happened, actually in this past week, I was in a point of extreme sadness. I adopted a dog basically last month, And over the 4 weeks or so that I had her, it was very hard for me to take care of her, essentially. I loved her. I love her with all my heart and soul. But it was just very hard. She was a very rambunctious dog, and there were a lot of things that I was trying to do that I just couldn't get done with a dog. Having a dog, and especially a puppy, she was only 2 months old at the time. So trying to keep up with a puppy is almost the equivalent to having a newborn baby. So it's a lot of, going back and forth and having to take her outside and take her for walks and go on runs. She's not as self-contained as maybe a more mature dog would be. So it was very hard at times to do even small tasks, such as going to the grocery store. Like me and my mom, we couldn't go to the store together, or anything like that. Someone had to be at home to watch her, because we can't leave her out just roaming the house, because no ma'am. I also am not too big of a fan of leaving a dog caged for extreme periods of time. I did it once and she was fine, but I just didn't want that to become a daily habit, especially when we're in a time of such unknowns. There's so many unknowns. We don't know what things are going to be like when outside is back open. So, we want to go out, if we want to do a spontaneous trip, if anything like that occurs, what then happens with my dog? And there was just this one day my mom talked to me, and she had been having these like random, thoughts with me over the couple of weeks that I had her. And she was like, have you realistically thought this through? Which I thought I did. But this particular day, what she was saying was resonating with me in a different way. And it wasn't anything different that she was saying from prior times, but it was just how it resonated with me. And she was basically saying how, she was a red-nosed pit bull Labrador mix. So she was going to be a pretty sufficient sized dog. I mean, she was already pretty big to only be 2 months old. So she was going to be a pretty sufficient sized dog. Our house is, pretty well in size, but it's still, doing a lot to contain my parents and me, let alone when my sister comes home from time to time. And now we have this dog that whatever small pockets of space we had left, now she's occupying all of that with dog food everywhere and dog toys over here. And, she's sleeping in this corner and laying in front of the door. Now all that unoccupied space that we have very little of, she's now taking over. And it was just very, it was very emotional for me, to think that, she just needs more space and more room. And just thinking in terms of when eventually I do go back to work, that's 9+ hours a day I could be gone from my home. And if I put her in doggy daycare or even training classes, or taking her to my cousin's house who has a lot of animals, or even leaving her here with my parents, that's majority of the day that I'm not gonna see my dog. And then we sleep for the other part of the day. So the 2 to 3 hours of free time that I now have to fit in time to spend with my dog, walk her, feed her, and then do whatever else I need to do for myself. And then it's time to go to bed and I start all over. So now I'm essentially spending less than probably an hour a day during the week with my dog, and then the weekends. And I'm a parent with part-time custody, basically. And I just didn't feel like that was fair to her. And it wasn't what I wanted with a bond with my dog. And so it pained me to think about that, because over this short period of time, I've established a bond with this animal. And as hard as it was to maintain her, I also didn't want to let her go. But essentially, I had to think about, what's best for her and what's best for me. I cried for literally, first of all, anybody that's ever said they cried all day, I never really believed those people until I literally did it. I cried from 10:30 in the morning until 3:30 in the afternoon. And the only reason I stopped was because I forced myself to take a nap, and I took like a 3-hour nap. I had to do that to stop myself from crying. And I was still crying off and on when I got up, and off and on the next day. And when we were leaving from dropping her off, I literally cried so hard. And I have never cried like that. I never cried like that about a boy. I never cried like that about a whooping before when I was younger. So the fact that this little being had so much impact on me, it was just insane to me. And I was literally so sad, and I could not bring myself out of it. And I'm like, at the end of the day, it's just a dog. But it was my dog for a time being, and I cared for this thing, you know what I mean? And it was just, it was such a trying thing. But over the past few days, I've had so many signs of things that I did the right thing and that I was on the right path. And at times, I don't really like to share those things with people because I feel like people would think I'm crazy, but I'm a very spiritual being as well. So I like to be in tune with, what my surroundings are telling me, really trying to listen and hear things for what I'm supposed to do, and just being in tune with my feelings and like my instincts and really seeing things. And I think one thing my mom pointed out to me that I never really noticed was the power of my dreams. And I hate having dreams because when I'm having a good sleep, I never have dreams. But I tend to have dreams about 15 to 20 minutes before I'm starting to wake up in the morning. So they're not really during the night, but they're more towards the morning. And the day that me and my mom had the conversation about rehoming Reese, I had this dream, and at the end of the dream, there was this red, kind of like toucanish, multicolored bird, and it stopped in its tracks and looked me right in the eye. And whoever the other person was in my dream, without me even asking, they looked at me and said, "That's the death bird." And I was like, that's odd. Why is it so bright and colored if it's the death bird? And at that moment, Reese had woken me up to let her out to use the bathroom. And about an hour later is when I had the conversation with my mom. During this conversation with my mom, behind her, I could see a yellow bird sitting on the tree outside the window. I've never seen a yellow bird before in my life. Maybe like a parrot or something, but this was just like a little bird. Never seen a yellow bird before. On this particular day, it was cold, it was rainy, it was overcast skies, very dark and gloomy, but here's this bright yellow bird. Never seen it before in my life. And so I was like, that's odd. And so immediately in my mind, me being the person that I am, I'm like, that's probably a sign of something. And I just had a dream about this other bird, but I'm like, okay, whatever. The next day, after we drop Reese off, a cardinal flies in front of the truck. And then when we get home, we're sitting down to eat. Outside of the window, a cardinal is sitting on the window shields. I'm like, that's like 3 birds in a row that I've seen between visions and actually seeing them. And so I look up, the meanings of these birds. And a red bird is a sign of either, a loved one that has passed that is, coming to visit you, or it could be the sign of, change and new and better things to come. And so I was like, that's interesting, because I was like, it could either be like the spirit of Reese, like coming and telling me like, it's fine, I'm okay. Or it could be the sign of, now that chapter is closed, a new chapter is coming, and the things that I've been trying to do, something's going to start to form and come to fruition. Then I looked up the meaning of a yellow bird. And the sign of a yellow bird is just like joy and happiness and things of that nature. And I was like, okay. And then in the text of the yellow bird, it went on to say that, it can have different meanings if you see a bird dead or alive. And it said if you see the sign of a dead bird, it could mean the sign of something tragic or an unfortunate circumstance to come. Which I was like, that's so strange, because I had the dream of the death bird right before we had the conversation of the unfortunate circumstance of me having to give Reese away. So I was like, all of these things are just like lining up in such a, I know there are going to be some people who's like, oh, those are just coincidences, whatever. But I don't believe in coincidences. I don't believe anything happens for no reason. And literally that night, the lady, she, texted me to see if I was okay. And she was like, you can come visit anytime you want. We'll send pictures every so often. She's doing fine. She's calm. And when she said she was calm, I knew that, like, okay, that's where she's supposed to be. Because one thing Reese was not was calm. Okay. Sis ran us. Okay. She was here. She was there. She was everywhere. So, and even when we dropped her off, it was almost like she forgot about us immediately. She immediately ran off to them, didn't try to attack them, anything like that. So it was just so interesting to me. The following day, me and my mom went furniture shopping, and it was the first sunny day that we had really had in almost like 2 or 3 weeks. It was sunny. The temperature was amazing. We had stumbled upon this like curbside vibe thing. Wow. And I had saw the flyer for them to do it, but I thought it was in downtown Indianapolis. And they were actually right here outside of the furniture store we were just coincidentally shopping at, coincidentally. So I was like, wow. So things are really like turning around and changing. And ever since then, I've just had this different like spark of energy and, just joy, yellow bird, about myself. And it's really helped me to just put things in perspective and hunker down on what it is that I really should be focusing on. So whatever it is that helps you to find peace and comfort within your situation, make sure you do that. You know what I mean? If it's having to look up, paying attention to things going on around you and trying to figure out what that means, if it's trying to figure out what your role in everything is that's happening around you. For me, I just, maybe I was just a conduit, a passerby in between Reese's previous owner and her new owner. Maybe, I saved her from something that, would have been unfortunate for her to be in, essentially. And it definitely helped me to, build and gain responsibility. Not saying that I was irresponsible, but just a different level of responsibility and dedication, because as hard as it was with her, like, I still knew I have to make this content. I have to get these videos edited. I have to, post things on social media. I still have to look into this over here and research this over here. I still have to stay on my diet. I still have to work out. I still have to, contribute to things in the house. So as much as difficult as it was, I couldn't take my focus off of my main responsibilities either. It helped me to be more driven, because now I know what it's like. I truly understood why so many women and men fight to be stay-at-home parents, because when you love and cherish something like that, you want to be there to, spend as much time with them as you can to help them grow and learn and develop and just have those memories. So it's making me more driven to do whatever I can now to build my life up in a way that when the time comes and I have a family of my own, whether it's with children or with animals, I'm able to give that time to them that they deserve and that they need, and not feel like I have to sacrifice so much of myself to maintain these responsibilities over here as well. So I definitely feel like she was placed in my life for a purpose. And I am realizing that more and more every single day. And the biggest thing was just the people that I had around me. I had so many people. I had made kind of a melodramatic post on Instagram, but I didn't make the post for attention or for somebody to, oh, woe is me, nothing like that. But there were so many people who left positive comments or text me and to, check in on me, or just sending you loves and hugs, like, all those type of things. All of my friends checked on me, because they knew it was really hard for me. Like, I've never experienced anything like that. So knowing your people, who are your people? I spent a lot of time with my mom, because I'm telling you, this dog took an emotional toll on everybody. Like, my entire house was somber for a good 24 hours. Like, my mom cried, and my mom was the one not even with getting the dog in the first place, and she cried. My dad was sad. My sister, who literally only met Reese for like 3 days, called me crying 2 days in a row. I upgraded my Hulu to Disney Plus finally, just because I was sad, and all I did was watch National Geographic for 3 days. That's how sad I was. Granted, I love National Geographic, but to only watch National Geographic all day, every day for 3 days, that's a whole nother level of something. So know who your people are, know what centers you, find what centers you. Is it yoga? Is it Disney Plus? Is it church? Is it reading? Is it sleeping? Is it your mom? Is it your best friend? Whoever it is, find what centers you and do whatever you can to do those things to bring back your peace and happiness. Because one thing is that trouble does not last always. You will make it through. You might not recover in 3 hours, 3 days, 3 months, 3 years. It might take a while depending on your situation. However, you have to put yourself in the mental mindset of, I want to come out of this. I do not want to feel this way all the time. And once you recognize that and find someone you can confide in, because again, we're not here by ourselves. We're not here for ourselves. There are other people on this earth to help us and for us to help them as well. So keeping those things in mind, you will make it through and you will be able to prosper beyond your wildest dreams once you tap in with your physical, emotional, and mental being. So that's all that I have today about mental health. I am not an expert on this topic, so I know there are so many different statistics and variables and other things that go into it, but this is just my take on it and the experiences that I've had, and I just hope that that could shed a little bit of light and love for someone else who may be experiencing some similar things. But whatever it is that you're going through in life, know that you're not the only one. Just because you don't see or hear these cases all the time does not mean that you are the only one to have ever gone through what you're going through. So look out. There's literally, you can Google anything. At this point, there's a community, a social hub, a gathering, a support group for almost anything that you might be going through in life. And again, if you need help finding those resources, please let me know, and I will do the best that I can to help you with that in any way that I can. But that's all I have for this time. In the meantime, remember that you are strong, you are fearless, and you are capable. And I'll see you next time. Bye.